Hello students, it's your IELTS tutor Jack and welcome to another episode of the IELTS Plus English podcast. Today's topic is health, something I know is very important, but I don't take enough care, and I think that's true for many people, right? Now, firstly, of course, before we start, check out my website www.jacks-english.com to see free handouts, all 20 of them. We are halfway, by the way. When I say we're halfway of season 1. So we are going to go to 40 topics, and then the podcast will continue with another season with something very, very different. But for now, we are halfway. Please show your appreciation on YouTube by liking, commenting, subscribing to be part of the community. And if you can on your podcast platform, hit the like button. I really appreciate that. So before we get into the questions, I'd like to talk about something that's been on my mind recently. I have some students who really struggle with intonation. What is intonation? Intonation is the rise and fall of the tone of your voice. So a flat intonation would be like this. There's no movement up or down, it's just flat. Whereas a strong intonation would be like this, where we go up and down and up and down. Of course, that's a little bit exaggerated, but I think I have quite strong intonation overall. So if you are looking for someone to follow, do listen to my podcasts and listen to the way I go up and down and I emphasize certain words. But I just want to give you a few tips for people that are really struggling with flat intonation. Number 1 is posture. It doesn't sound like it would have an effect, but if you're hunched and you're small, it tends to make you less confident and have flatter intonation. So do make sure you take care of your posture, have an open posture, and that does tend to open up your voice and give you more intonation. Number 2 is to take care of your attitude. Again, you'll probably listen and think, what does that have to do with intonation? But if you come into an exam with low confidence, and when you have low confidence, you tend to be shy and a little bit sort of moody, that will have an effect on your intonation and you'll be flat. So before the exam, do whatever you need to do to kind of pump yourself up, give yourself confidence, go into the exam, or whatever you're doing. It could be an interview, a presentation, and concentrate on being friendly, being nice, being happy. It's easier said than done, but this is something I do as well. You know, for my videos, my podcasts, I really make sure I come into it with the right attitude. Finally, try to start strong. I've talked about this in many videos before, but when you start your answer, don't start like this. Don't start very flat. Hit the answer from the start with plenty of volume and higher tone, because that will kind of set yourself for the rest of the answer and you'll tend to have more intonation. Also, if you try to adjust your intonation later in the answer, it's harder to do. It's easier to start strong. And that's all I have to say on intonation. I hope that helps you. But for now, let's do some IELTS questions. So, number 1, part 1. Do you think health is important? I think health is incredibly important. I think we often don't consider our health. We focus on working, maybe taking care of the family. We put so many things a higher priority than our health, and I think that's a big mistake. Okay, we'll go straight into a part 2 because I was chatting a lot today. So let's see, 2 minutes are on the clock, and today's question is, describe something you do to keep healthy. Okay, that's pretty easy for me. So 2 minutes on the clock, starting now. I'd like to tell you about jogging. a while ago, it was 2 years ago, I started jogging. I've always been good at long distance sports, ones that require stamina. But I just found jogging so boring. I knew I wanted to do it, but I found it so boring. But I started very slowly, and I started doing a few kilometers, sometimes walking, sometimes running, and always listening to a podcast or music. And after some time, I really started to warm to it. I started to enjoy jogging. So let me tell you a little more about jogging. For me, jogging is going to the Han River, which is the river near my house, and running for 5 to 8, sometimes 10 or 12 kilometers. It depends how I feel. And as I said, I like to listen to podcasts about business, education, sport, a variety of topics. It's not a vigorous exercise, and I think you should try to have some kind of vigorous exercise as well. But it's a good aerobic exercise, and it's a great way to stay in shape. I just worry with jogging that I'm missing some elements of health that I would get if I joined the gym, for example. But for now, it's a good exercise. So for me personally, it's a really fun way to stay in shape. It's a good way for me to consume content, listening content. I think if you're a student, it's a good way to have some learning time, listening to something in English, for example. And yeah, I genuinely enjoy jogging now. I go 2 or 3 times a week. So in the future, I do hope to keep my health, and I hope to keep... No. There you go. Done. So yeah, that was true. I do like jogging now, and it was difficult to start, but yeah, it's a good hobby and free as well. Let's do some part 3s. This is important for health, I think. I think if you're going to get the health topic, part 3 questions will be pretty common, regarding health in society and stuff like that. But let's see. What do you think are the most popular ways of keeping healthy in your country? Okay, well, I live in South Korea, so we'll talk about that. I think golf, tennis, going to the gym, cycling, these are some really common ways of staying healthy. I think Korea is quite a healthy country on the whole. I don't hear too many cases of diabetes. I think a lot of the issues in Korea are mental. Stress is very high here. So a sport where you can socialize with other people and relieve that stress that builds up at work, I think that's very important here. Do you think more could be done to encourage health in your country? I think, well, I'll talk about England in this case, and I'm sorry to keep switching, but the reason is I think in England more can be done, so it's worth talking about. In England, there are a lot of cases of diabetes. Obesity is a problem. You can see it when you're in England. So I think that there could be ways that the government encourages people to particularly exercise, but also eat healthily as well. The diet in England seems to have deteriorated over the last few decades, and now a lot of people eat instant food. But on the exercise side of things, just encouraging people to go to the park, play team games, join clubs, things like that would be a really beneficial for society. One more question and then we will wrap up. What health issues did people deal with during the coronavirus outbreak? That's an interesting question. I think a lot of people dealt with health issues very much related to the mental side. It was, stress of being cooped up at home. It was stress from the inability to earn money. Financial stress was a big issue. It was stress from people who had their own businesses like me, and they feared for their business. They feared for their future. So I think that was definitely the biggest issue. And of course, this has a knock-on effect in that people, when they're stressed, they eat less healthily, they do less exercise. So I feel like in the coronavirus, it all came from this mental issue that turned into a physical issue with regards health. Okay, that's today's episode, which was episode 20, halfway through this season, I would say, or halfway through this curriculum of topics. I hope you're enjoying it. I really do hope you're enjoying this podcast. I've had some nice feedback, and the podcast is growing on the different platforms, so that's wonderful. The way you can help me, I will always keep this free, and the way you can help me is just hit that like button, comment, join the community, let me know how it's going, and I really hope you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying doing it. I hope you have a wonderful week this week, and I hope you study hard. And I'll see you next week with a new topic. See you soon.